it's more important for them to get their paycheck than me. If I have to change what it is, which is very rare that I have, but sometimes you do. And I have learned to move through that stress. That used to really, 8 years ago, cause me a lot of stress. When you got kids in college and you're trying to take care of parents and that. But again, it doesn't do you any good to wallow in anything.
Marylyn, thank you so much for your time today. I am excited to learn more about you and your firm. If you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, my name's Marylyn Ernsberger, and I'm the owner of Ernsberger Law. I got started, I've been practicing about 15 years now. So did my undergrad in the late 80s, where women were told that we shouldn't go on to school, that maybe we should get married. And multiple professors told me that I should not go to law school. And, oh, yes, I went to Indiana State, and I can have more than one hand of them that made sure. And it wasn't just male professors, it was also female professors as well. So when I got done with, and I knew at 22, I wasn't, say, mature enough to go to law school, but I always knew I wanted to. So I took a break from, uh, after I got my bachelor's degree. I had a small business, retail shop in the small town I grew up in, and ran that for about 10 years. Had my husband and I got married, had 2 children, and just started. I was on the town council in our town, and I was working with the attorney on some things. And I thought, all of a sudden, I kept getting this little nudge feeling in me like, well, I can do that. What am I doing here? So I said something to my husband. I said, I think I really want to go back to school. And our son was getting ready, he's the youngest, getting ready to start school full time. And he said, well, if you sell that business, you can go back to school. So I went to put the business up for sale. The realtor I hired said, no, you probably won't sell it. You'll just sell the building. That's what happens with these small shops. My accountant said, you're not going to sell it. Within 3 months, I had found the buyer, had it sold. My realtor ended up paying all my legal fees to do the transaction because he was so excited about what I was going to go do.
Really?
Yes, it was the attorney that I've been working with called and said, "You don't have a bill. Somebody paid your bill." And I said, "What do you mean?" So I'm not supposed to tell you, but I'm gonna. And I just thought that was the nicest thing. So I had, hardly any. In fact, he even took half his commission from it because I had found the buyer for the business. And then I'm about a 2 hour drive to Lansing, Michigan. Cooley worked out for my family. Well, for me, the schedule they had. So I commuted back and forth. My husband worked third shift. So when I would have to leave early in the morning to get to school, my mother would come and stay with our kids to get them on the bus in the morning. And then sometimes she'd spend the night with them if I stayed in Lansing. My father would drive me to school when I had my finals.
Wow.
So it was just like a family. And I come live in a small town of about 400 people. And the people there, I am so fortunate to have so many people behind me that were helping and stuff to make sure that everything still stayed on track with our family. And
Takes a
I'm so
village.
yeah, it does. It takes a village. I'm a big proponent of that. So my business background helps me with, my business now. So I never thought I wanted my own practice after owning a business because I had that business for 10 years. I was like, no, I'm just going to be a great employee for someone. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I got in, worked with a firm that the gentleman and the woman that were the partners, they were great to start under. But I just, again, you always don't feel like you're valued in the business sometimes. So I left, went to another firm that both the firms I worked with had really strong reputations in the area that I am in, very strong personalities, and I learned extremely well. Some of them were good business decisions, some of them were great lawyers, hard to mesh the two. And I just kind of thought, it's time for me to go out on my own. So I have also been with having, and I used to have a gentleman that practiced with me for about 10 years that was in his 80s, went through explaining to him that it was time to retire. I wish it would have gone a little bit different. So I've got experience in, having the change. I have a young associate with me. I've been through a couple, but the one I have now is absolutely fabulous. Um, so my advice though to people having their own firm is staff, having staff that are valuable. I have some of the best paralegals probably in almost the whole state of Indiana. I would say people are always just amazed. They're wonderful. We have just collected people, I would say, that have the same work ethic that we do, maturity level and stuff, and it makes a huge, huge difference.
So great. And so how many employees are you at today?
I have 5 employees and then a part-time bookkeeper. I would say the bookkeeper position is the hardest one to
It is.
do, but I do, and I have a new person starting in that position soon who is a gentleman who had been a controller at two large corporations and had his own small business for 20 years and just wants to do something part time and stuff. So we are really excited to have him come in. So
That's great.
yeah, it is.
Uh, Love this the story and how you got started, and being told you shouldn't do something at a very vulnerable, impressionable age in school is really interesting. And credit to you and your ability to say, I'm gonna figure this out. Both in being an entrepreneur at the store and then going back and getting your law degree. Why did you choose family law?
Well, it's I don't just do family
A
law.
multi-practice.
That's our, bread and butter,
Yeah,
should we speak? I do, and when I consider family law, we do a lot of estate planning, a lot of probate work. So I call my practice cradle to grave. So I do a lot of adoptions. In fact, I just did 3 adoptions this week. So we start there, and then do wills, trusts, estates. I do divorces, paternity cases, guardianships, lots of those. Children that have special needs and are turning adults, they have to have a guardianship. Them A lot of probate work, setting up LLCs for people or sub S corporations, and guiding them through, how do we start a business? So, and maybe the occasional criminal case where somebody made just a little silly decision. So, sometimes it's like triage in here. We call it the emergency room because people just, oh my, I got an emergency. And real estate, do personal injury cases. I've done some wrongful death cases. I've been very, um, so I laugh when I think back about people saying, don't do this, don't do this. If somebody tells me that I can't do something or I shouldn't or I won't, it's like, oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna go do that.
Underestimate it. Underestimate me. It's fine. I love it because a lot of times they don't expect that you actually know what you're doing.
Turns out.
So it's fun, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How have you been able to build the systems and processes to be multi-practice? I'm always so amazed at the firms that are able to do that successfully, because at our firm we're so focused. Right, we only do family law, um, and we have a hard enough time building processes and systems for that. So, tell me
I
how you
think
do
it
that.
all meshes together.
Yeah,
I really do because especially doing some litigation work that, discovery in a family law case and a divorce case is very similar to discovery in, say, like a personal injury case. Because I've got to find out where assets are. I've got to find the coverage, what happened during the accident. So the interrogatories and the request for production might be different, but it's the same mechanism. So I have a ton of form. I mean, we are so good about form banks and stuff, and then tweaking for each case. But it helps me to know, like when I go for a family law, if I've got an evidentiary hearing, um, just knowing the trial rules better, I think, is a good thing. Now, I've only had a couple federal court cases. I'd prefer to stay out of that arena and stuff because, again, I'd have to travel an hour. I have shrunk down, really where my radius is of taking cases. But now with Zoom, I just did a guardianship case, just a transfer from one guardian to another 2 hours away, but the judge let me just appear by Zoom to get that done. So It's just one of those crazy things. And I always tell people, hey, you don't want to hire me for something that far away. And if I can't do it, you know, and have to show up there, you're going to have to find somebody else. But I don't, it, to me, it all works together. My paralegals, they all can do a little bit of everything, but they each kind of have their own specialties. So they could fill in if necessary, but they don't, they mostly have their specific things that they do. So, and our receptionist was a former title company closer. So she does a lot of our real estate stuff, plus answers the phone and takes care of the screaming clients.
That's great.
Hey, family law firm leaders. My partner, Tony Carls, just released his book where he lays bare our precise blueprint for growing Sterling lawyers from 0 to 17 million. This is the blueprint that we still use daily. And Tony explains it in very simple terms. The truth is, this is not simple to do. Success requires and demands hard work. But if you have the patience and the work ethic to do it, your family law firm will succeed.
How long have you been practicing?
16, say almost 17 years.
As you think about that amazing career and the length of time you're able to do it, tell us about some of the challenges you've encountered as it relates to running your business, to being the entrepreneur and being the leader of the firm that your employees rely
Yeah.
on.
Well, you go through, we've been through several, shall we say, poor hires, okay, hiring decisions that it was like, okay, this the person maybe looked good on paper. You thought they were going to work out, and then, they don't show up. Um, Things don't work out. And again, I go back to the people that you work with make you or break you, because they're the first face of the firm. They're the ones taking the phone calls. So that some of the turnover sometimes. And I always try to stress in the interviews that this is a very high stress job. People, it's clients are pissed, frankly, most of the time when they're calling in about something, and you trying to diffuse that situation. They're never calling in on their best day. So you have a young 20 something answering the phones and they're like, they were mean to me. Okay, well, yes, they are. And just because someone raised their voice at you doesn't necessarily mean that they're angry towards you. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in having employees that are here for long term. The other gentleman that I had in the office, he didn't really care about that. It was, there's always somebody else. And so, and you have to put in things place. I don't drink during the week at all. I rarely even drink now. In the last couple of years, hardly have any alcohol. Exercise every day. Um, but I am kind of consumed by this, and I'm fortunate that my husband is okay with
You're
that.
very
He's
supportive. That's great.
very, very supportive, and my family is really understanding. They always have been. They have heard me take calls. We living in a small community, people will just drop by your house,
Hey, I had a question about this thing.
and so then you just and sometimes it's something really bad that's happened, a death in the family or something. And if you can just take 5 to 10 minutes with them, it's just better. It kind of diffuses it. So, and some people aren't built for that, but and sometimes I'll say that gets stressful. I mean, my parents lived with my husband and I for several years. That when they passed away, trying to take time with them was difficult. But you just you manage and go on.
Yeah.
So
Marilyn, if you had to start a new firm today, what would you do differently? What systems or processes would you want to have in place so that you could really ramp up successfully?
um, well, if I had started from the beginning, I like our soft client software we have. I really like that. And if I would have started from the very, very beginning, if that would have been in place then, and the bookkeeper would have known how to use it that decided they wanted it, that would have been fabulous. But I'll tell you, I probably would do it the same way I did. I have a wonderful IT gentleman that manages our computers and stuff and backs everything up. That was an important piece. My accountant is wonderful, but getting the people in place that you need, again, it'd be the same hires that I had at that time. So I don't know if I'd really do anything too different, because so this is funny, when I left the first firm I left from, I had watched other attorneys leave there. And as soon as you told them, I mean, like even one guy, I remember the last gentleman that left before me, he was given almost a month's notice that he was going to leave. The next day he was packed up and gone. And I had seen somebody else. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I knew when I was leaving that I thought, oh, things aren't going to go well, you know?
Right, because that expectation had been set.
Yeah. I figured I'd be, packed up and out the door. Oh no, you need to stay 2 weeks. And I said, well, wait a minute. Well, what happened? You just threw the other kid out the door. Why? It's different. You have there was a jury trial, civil jury trial that probably was going to get continued, but they weren't having it. If I wasn't going to be there to try that case, I had to be there to try the case. So fortunately, I had a telephonic conference with the judge and the other two attorneys that were there. And while we were talking, the gentleman said that he needed to have it continue because his wife was sick. And I said, that would be great because I'm trying to leave this firm and I cannot unless this is continued. And the judge that was on the phone just like says, Marilyn, I think we'll help you out with that. So, and I've seen him several times since then. And he said, I think that was the best entry I ever made. I said, well, thank you so much for doing that for me. So, but it was funny how that happened. Then the other firm I was with, when I went to leave, the gentleman was like, oh no, don't you want to stay? And I was like, no, I don't want to stay. I'm going out on my own. Take whatever you want, leave. I was like, I don't want to take whatever I want. I will take my files and my clients and I'm going. And so, yeah, it's just a very different startup process.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just wild. There's a certain mindset that you need in order to go out on your own and be able to have the confidence and fortitude to just figure it out, and
There's no, to me, I didn't want to fail. I didn't have an option to fail too. So my parents, in the late 80s, while I was in college, lost our family farm, went through the whole time where, farming late 80s, early 90s was not kind. In the Midwest, the interest rate was so high and stuff. And so I didn't have, I mean, my family doesn't, I come from, but at one time we had something, nothing. And I had to figure out a way to support all of us. And working for other people, I just wasn't getting it. And also, I felt like, okay, I can employ people and make sure they're earning a good living. That's something else I think is very, very important. So it's more important for them to get their paycheck than me. If I have to change what it is, which is very rare that I have, but sometimes you do. And I have learned to move through that stress. That used to really, about, I'd say 8 years ago, cause me a lot of stress. When you got kids in college and you're trying to take care of parents and that, yeah. But again, it doesn't do you any good to wallow in anything. You have to get on to the next.
you gotta make progress. I love that.
Talking to my associate about it is, okay, you have a bad hearing, that move on. Okay, you got to move on. The next client is there. They're expecting a result. You got to move on. I can't get too upset at employees do things. I mean, they're all human, and you want to go, what the hell were you thinking, or why did you do that? But you have to just move on. You don't have time. You maybe address the situation. Hey, let's try to do this better next time, or whatever. Doesn't do you any good. Move on.
So, like, one, as an owner, your paycheck is not guaranteed, right? But you got to make sure that your employees' paychecks are guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And then two, when things are bad, the only thing you can do is make progress. Mm-hmm. So everything else is just a waste.
Yeah. That's right. It doesn't do. I always say this. In fact, I don't have it on today. I have a bracelet that says "This too shall pass," and So I might sit here quite a few times and say it. I always tell clients that, this too shall pass. Sometimes it passes much slower than we want it to, but it will.
Yep,
So,
I have one that says to find the good. So that's my
oh,
reminder of like,
yeah.
there's some good that's going to come out of this. I'm going to focus
Hmm.
on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. So,
Marylyn, this has been awesome. As we're finishing up here, tell us about the future of your firm. What are you thinking about? What are you working on?
mm,
How are you setting a vision for the future?
well, I want to build a mostly female firm, which I have. Too. I do have my brother, who's older than me, comes in with me part time. He's got some health issues. He practiced in Las Vegas for 20 years as an insurance defense attorney. So coming to this, but he just does all our research and stuff. And that's really cool too, to be able to work together. But probably in 2 more years, we'll add 1 to 2 other attorneys. I have 2 locations, one in one county and one in another, because we have a heavy Amish population in the other county that I have an office in. So there's a whole different feel to both counties. One is more a resort area. There's a small university here, and it's, I don't know, people think they're more sophisticated than the other county that has a huge Amish population. But I would say that my Amish clients are much more progressive than what people give them credit for. So that's a whole other podcast episode for you, but to get into. But I just think we want to expand. I want to be able to hand this off to someone. I'm probably going to practice at least 10 to, well, I know at least 10, probably 15 to 20 years more. I have a little great niece that wants to be a lawyer, and she comes with me sometimes to court and stuff. And, she'd be ready to, you know, somebody else will be here to help her manage things. And Aunt Marilyn can just, come in whenever.
I love it.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's perfect.
Because my daughter's she's at Loyola in Chicago right now. She works at Sidley Austin in Chicago, and then is going to law school part time there. But she has absolutely zero desire to come back to
Oh no.
rural Indiana to practice. So
Yeah, it's city life. That'll get you.
yeah, oh, I love it. We spend a lot of time up there, and I always say, "Gosh, is there something Mom could do?" When she's up there, but can't leave yet. Have to be able to pass this off to someone.
That's it. I love it. Well, I'm so appreciative of your time. Really, really enjoyed the insights. Looking forward to watching you continue your journey, and we'll see you again soon.